Late at night, the Punisher arrives at a family's house and knocks on the front door. A woman named Ann Larson answers, standing in the doorway and instinctively blocking the entrance. Punisher immediately addresses her by name and reveals that he knows about serious criminal activities taking place inside the home. He references the adult films Ann and her husband are shooting with their children. He then explains that his main concern is making the situation as easy as possible for the children. Without raising his voice, he asks Ann to invite him inside. Ann stands frozen in shock as she realizes this stranger already knows far more about her family than he should. Ann immediately recognizes the threat standing at her door and panics, calling for her husband. Carl rushes into view, takes one look, and instantly realizes who he's dealing with. The couple are terrified. Carl tries to regain control of the situation, insisting that the man can't simply walk into their home without a warrant. Punisher remains completely calm and reveals that he already has evidence. "I have everything I need," including a confession from one of their associates. "I have John Ritchie's confession. You make the films, he sells them to the distributor." Punisher explains that he knows the couple records them in their basement, and he also knows where evidence is stored inside the house. The master copies are in the basement. The couple stare at him in shock as they realize there is no point in pretending anymore. The Punisher then instructs them to bring their children downstairs and keep them in the living room while social services are contacted to pick them up. Faced with the collapse of everything they have hidden, Ann breaks down in tears while Carl struggles to respond. Both eventually sink to their knees, overwhelmed by fear. When Carl weakly protests, unable to even form a proper defense, the Punisher coldly tells them, "It's the only good thing you'll ever do for them." The children, 2 boys and a young girl, sit quietly together on a couch in the living room. Trying to keep them calm, Ann tells them to stay where they are because she and their father need to speak with this man. The children, unaware of what is happening, remain seated as she leaves the room. As soon as the door closes, Punisher gives a single instruction: basement. With no real choice, Ann and Carl lead him downstairs. Carl attempts to explain himself on the way, but the man immediately cuts him off and orders him to shut up. The basement reveals the cameras, recording equipment, and other materials connected to the films are scattered throughout the room. Punisher begins searching the area and quickly locates the evidence he came for, confirming that the information he received was accurate. Realizing how serious the situation has become, Carl says they want to call a lawyer. The Punisher calmly responds, "You're not under arrest." As he says this, he opens his coat, revealing the skull emblem on his shirt along with a handgun. The moment he does, Ann and Carl realize what's about to happen. Ann immediately panics and begins pleading in fear. Carl stands frozen as the situation spirals beyond any hope of control. The Punisher draws his weapon and makes it clear that this situation is not going to end with arrests or a courtroom. The Punisher shoots, and a bullet goes straight through Ann's head. Ann is the first to fall, leaving Carl horrified as he watches everything unravel around him. The Punisher remains cold and focused throughout, showing no hesitation. He says, "Quiet. Remember the children." With that, he shoots again. Carl gets a bullet going through his mouth, breaking his teeth into small pieces, and blood comes out of his mouth. Carl, overwhelmed by fear and pain, begins to tear up, clutching his ruined face and covering his mouth. His wife on the ground, bleeding from her head, already gone. With no chance of escape, he breaks down. The Punisher watches him and reflects on his own view of justice. In his mind, simply dying is not always enough. He believes some people deserve to suffer, to understand the weight of their actions and experience the consequences. Looking at Carl, he thinks, "That was the thought I'd had when I went in there. It was a simple thing to watch him cough his teeth out." Listen as he choked on the shred of his tongue. His eyes said everything. The agony. The disbelief at what had happened to a normal evening. The realization hell came next. The Punisher admits that part of him could have stood there for an hour. However, another part of him, the part that came there to finish the job, ultimately takes over. As Carl keeps struggling, bleeding in pain, Punisher ends it. The part that raised the pistol took up second pressure. Punisher fires a final shot, killing Carl. After the confrontation is over, the Punisher remains inside the house with the children instead of leaving immediately. He sits and waits with them, knowing that if they wandered downstairs looking for their parents, they would discover something no child should ever have to see. While the three children sit quietly in the living room, the Punisher contacts the authorities and arranges for help to come. He stays long enough to make sure someone will take responsibility for them before disappearing. As he waits, he studies the children. The youngest, a little girl no older than 4, appears confused and frightened. Looking at her, he wonders if she might still have a chance to recover from everything she has experienced. It depends on how much of it has stayed with her and how much will stay with her as she grows up. He admits to himself, not being an expert, I couldn't say for sure. The boys worry him more. Unlike their sister, they show very little emotion. Their distant expressions and empty stares make it seem as though the damage had already been done. Watching them, the Punisher gets a sinking feeling that their story isn't over. When he hears the police arriving, he slips out through the back of the house while officers enter through the front. As he leaves, he keeps thinking about the children's faces, especially the boys. He can't shake the feeling that he might see them again in 20 years from now, after the trauma and pain of their childhood has had time to shape who they become. Standing alone in the darkness afterward, the Punisher reflects bitterly. There are times that I'd like to get my hands on God. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel.